From the streets to the studio, we bring
a very beautiful morning out there, and welcome to another edition of In the Papers on your darling station, iPower 102.7 FM. That will bring to you major headlines making waves across Nigeria and beyond. I am Florence Ibhareman, and of course, we have headlines from the Hope newspaper this morning. We have headlines from the Punch newspaper. We have headlines from the Guardian newspapers. We have headlines from Daily Post newspapers this morning. Yes, the program is In the Papers, your daily nugget for news making major headlines in today's newspaper. Stay with me as we break it down and make sense of the news that matters to you. Yes, going straight into today's headlines from the Punch newspaper this morning, we have a human rights key to credible 2027 elections, and that was from Shatima. Still taking headlines from the Punch newspaper this morning, we have prepare for heavy rain, firm urges farmers. Yes, ICPC to arraign El-Rufai in Kaduna today, and that is also from the Punch newspaper this morning. Still on the Punch newspaper this morning, we have Obi condemns a reported arrest of clergy, warns against threat to democracy. Yes, we have expert urges federal government to avert health sector collapse, and that headline is from the Punch newspaper this morning. Away from the Punch newspaper this morning and straight to the Nations, where we have NURTW gets new president as court sacks Oluomo. Still on the Nation's newspaper this morning, we have Navy rescues 7 passengers from capsized boat in Bayelsa State. Here's a quick look at entertainment world where we have this from Funke Akindele saying self-discovery is the first step to success, and that also is from the Nation's newspaper this morning. A quick look at Daily Post this morning where we have a talk on fuel price hike. Expert CSOs divided on subsidy as Nigerians face a worsening hardship. Still on Daily Post newspaper this morning, we have EFCC probes suspected serial fraudster over alleged 19.9 million naira visa scam in Enugu. Away from Daily Post and now to the Guardian, where we have federal government set agenda for pension reforms as SGF inaugurates Pencom board. Glad to have you back. The program is still in the papers, your daily nugget for news making major headlines in today's newspaper. And of course, we're taking a quick look on the Punch newspaper this morning where we have prepare for heavy rain. Firm urges farmers. Now the details. Farmers across Nigeria have been urged to prepare for heavy rain and not rush into full-scale planting despite the recent onset of rainfall. The founder of Global Initiatives for Nigerian Development, Michael Ali, gave the advice in a statement released in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, on Monday. He noted that the current rains being experienced in parts of the country may not translate into a sustained rainfall needed for optimal agricultural yields. Punch Online reports that the Nigerian Meteorological Agency and the federal government have earlier issued warnings to farmers against early planting following recent deceptive rain in February and early March 2026. They said the early rainfalls are not considered as official start of the raining season and pose a risk of crop failure due to potential drought. Ali, in a statement on Monday, linked the emerging irregular rainfall pattern to broader global disruption. He said, and I quote, "While early rain often signals the start of the planting season, farmers should exercise caution as climate variability and global energy disruption could alter rainfall consistency." The inconsistency, Ali noted, could lead to reduced productivity, especially for smallholder farmers who rely heavily on predictable season cycle. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper this morning with this headline: "Prepare for heavy rain, firms urges farmers." Still Still on the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have OB condemns reported arrest of clergy, warns against threat to democracy. Now the details. Former Anambra State Governor and ex-Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi has condemned the reported arrest of a prominent Islamic clergy, Sheikh Ahmed Tijani Umar, describing it as troubling sign for Nigerians' democracy. In a post via his verified ex handle on Tuesday, Obi said he has been informed that the clergy was arrested shortly after hosting him in Kaduna on Sunday. He said, and I quote, "I have just been made aware early this morning that Reverend religious leader Sheikh Ahmed Tijani Umar has been arrested by authorities shortly after hosting me in Kaduna on Sunday." The former governor warned that the development reflects a broader pattern of intolerance and recession in the country. He said the development underscores the deeply troubling state of our nation and our democracy, where freedom of speech and movement is increasingly threatened, and where citizens are perceived political opponents face harassment and unnecessary persecution. This cannot be allowed to continue. Obi stressed the importance of protecting civil liberties, noting that democratic governance depends on the protection of fundamental rights. He further called on the authorities to uphold the rule of law and democratic principles in the dealings with citizens. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper this morning with this headline: Obi condemns reported arrest of clergy, warns against threats to democracy. Still on the Punch newspaper this morning, we have a tight security as ICPC arraigns El-Rufai in Kaduna. Now the details. Security is heightened on today around the Federal High Court in Kaduna as operatives of various agencies took positions ahead of the arraignment of the former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai over alleged corruption-related offences. As early as 7 a.m. this morning, heavy armed personnel drawn from the Department of State Service, the Nigerian Police Force, the Mobile Police Force, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps were deployed to strategic points leading to the court premises located at the old Nigerian Defense Academy. Vehicular movement was restricted and motorists forced into a single lane from the Ugwanga-Sarika axis through Kawo, causing early morning traffic disruption. The development followed an early announcement by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission that it would arraign El-Rufai today, March 24, 2026, before the Federal High Court sitting in Kaduna. The Anti-Graft Agency, in a Monday statement by its head of media and public communication, John Uday, disclosed that El-Rufai would be arraigned along one Joe Adoga in a suit number FHC/KD/73/2026. According to the Commission, the charge borders on alleged conversation and possession of public properties as well as money laundering. The Commission further revealed that in a separate charge marked KD/ICPC/01/26 had been filed against El-Rufai and one Ahmed Sule before a Kaduna State High Court. It is said that the counts in the state case includes abuse of office, fraud, intent to commit fraud, and conferring undue advantage. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper this morning with this headline: tight security as high CPC arraigns El-Rufai in Kaduna. Still on the Punch newspaper this morning, we have Neymar receives 708 stranded Nigerians from Niger. Now the details. The National Emergency Management Agency on Monday received 708 stranded Nigerians from the Neman in the Niger Republic. The head of operations, Nima Kano State, Dr. Nuru Abdullahi, made this known while briefing newsmen shortly after receiving the returnees at the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport in Kano for profiling. The news agency of Nigeria reports that the returnees are conveyed in 12 luxurious buses, arrived at about 4:08 p.m. and currently undergoing physical verifications. The returnee comprises of 292 male adults and children, 416 female adults and children. Different parts of Nigeria, particularly Katsina, Kano, Jigawa, Benue, Borno, Yobe, Zamfara, Kaduna, Kogi, and Niger State. Abdullahi said the returnees were brought back by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He said the returnees have been fed and arrangements have been made for temporary shelter. He noted that medical personnel from the Nigerian Red Cross were on the ground to provide treatment for sick returnees, while several cases would be referred to appropriate state health facilities. He advised the general public and Nigerian youth to avoid endangering their lives by traveling to seek greener pastures in other countries. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper this morning with this headline: Neymar receives 708 stranded Nigerians from Niger. Still on the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have police arraigned Barua dismisses shooting claim at the NURTW headquarters. Now the details. The Federal Capital Territory Police Command on Monday described videos circulating on social media alleging police involvement in a shooting at the National Union of Road Transport Workers headquarters in Garaki 2, Abuja, as false and misleading. The command stated that its official only intervened to restore order after receiving a distress call. It was also stated that it arraigned the quarter reinstated national president of the NURTW, Ibikunle Barua, alongside 6 others over the violence at the headquarters. A statement by the police public relations officer SP Josephine Ade said the command received a report at about 7 a.m. on March 23, 2026, and about 300 individuals armed with cutlass, butters, bows, and arrows had stormed the NURTW headquarters and were removing items from the premises. She said the Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of operations, DSP Iyako Sharu, led the response team to the scene, where preliminary investigation showed that the group attempted to enforce a court order without the presence of a court sheriff and other authorized officials. According to her, the actions are degenerated into a physical confrontation when other NURTW members resisted the move, leading to one victim sustaining severe machete wounds on the neck. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper this morning with this headline: Police arraign Abdulrahman dismisses shooting claims at NURTW headquarters. Still on the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have human rights key to credible 2027 elections, and that was from Shatima. Now the details. The convener of the Northern Stakeholders Consultative Initiative, Ambassador Yerima Shatima, has stressed that the protection of human rights will be crucial to strengthening the country's democratic process ahead of the 2027 general elections. The position was articulated in a special guest address delivered by Dr. Bashir Mohammed on behalf of the Yerima Shatima during an annual get-together event of Punch newspaper North Region, which was held in Kaduna on Sunday. Speaking on the theme, human rights and their role in strengthening Nigeria's democratic process ahead of the 2027 elections, Shatima observed that democracy cannot strive where citizens' rights are suppressed. While better amplifying Shatima's position, Dr. Bashir Mohammed noted that democracy is often described as the government of the people, by the people, and for the people, stressing further, but can the government truly exist where human rights is trampled upon? The answer is resounding no, he stated. He emphasized that human rights are fundamental to credible elections, thus insisting that freedom of speech, assembly, and protection from intimidation are essential for meaningful participation in electoral processes. Mohammed maintained as we approach 2027, the strength of our ballot lies not just in the ink, but in the freedom of speech to assemble and to vote without fear. Shatima, hailing Nigeria's democratic progress over the past 26 years, warned that failure to safeguard citizens' rights could limit the essence of elections to mere formalities. The convener of the North Stakeholders Consultative Initiative also raised concerns about the ongoing electoral reforms, pointing out that proposed amendment to Electoral Act must enhance transparency and voters' confidence. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper with this headline: Human Right Key to Credible 2027 Elections, says Shatima. Away from the Punch newspaper this morning and now to the nations, where we have a self-discovery is first step to success. That was from Funke Akindele. Actress and filmmaker Funke Akindele has reflected on a recently concluded program, The Creative Blueprint, emphasizing the importance of self-discovery and growth. In an Instagram post, Akindele highlighted the key takeaway from her journey, stressing that talent alone isn't enough and that intentional growth, reinvention, and evolution are crucial for success. Akindele encouraged the young creatives to focus on internal development, commit to growth, and embrace change. She wrote, and I quote, She is still thinking about that moment on stage as I shared my journey. One thing stood clear to me. Everything begins from within. Self discovery is the first step. Before the spotlight, before the recognition, before the success, you have to know you. For details of that story, see the nation's newspaper this morning with this headline: Self discovery is first step to success. Yes, still on the nation's newspaper this morning, SAN condemns Ozoro rape incident and demand tough actions. Now the details. A senior advocate of Nigeria, Chukwundi Enebeli, has condemned reported cases of multiple rape incidents in Ozoro Delta State, describing them as unacceptable and a grave violation of human dignity. Enebeli, in a statement, said the report of women allegedly being sexually assaulted in public under the guise of tradition were deeply disturbing and must be treated as criminal acts. He said, and I quote, the reported cases of multiple rape incidents from Ozoro Delta State in the recent days is not merely disturbing, it is unacceptable. The report circulated accounts of women being sexually assaulted and molested in public under the guise of any tradition or belief is a grave affront to human dignity, public safety, and the rule of law. It stressed that such actions cannot be justified under any cultural and social context, warning against attempt to frame the incidents as part of communal practices. Enebeli said, let it be stated clearly that such conduct is condemnable in the strongest term and does not represent the Deltanians' original what Deltanians originally stand for. There is no cultural, social, or traditional justification for such an act of sexual violence. Any attempt to excuse or justify this action as part of festival or communal activity is dangerous. This can never be said to be culture. It is criminality. For details of that story, see the nation's newspaper with this headline: SAN condemns Ozoro rape incidents and demands tough actions. Yes, this headline also coming to you from the nation's newspaper this morning: how women can drive accountability and growth. Now the details. Women have a crucial role to play in strengthening accountability and driving sustainable growth across organizations, governance, as experts have said. They spoke at the 5th Annual International Women's Day Roundtable of the Society for Corporate Governance Nigeria in Lagos, where stakeholders emphasized the need to move beyond symbolic inclusion of women to strategic participation in decision making. The roundtable with the theme Governance for Shared Value, Women as Drivers of Accountability and Growth brought together corporate leaders, governance professionals, and policymakers to examine how women can shape institutional culture and long term value creation. The recurring theme across presentation was about governance in fundamentally was that governance is fundamentally about a value rather than mere compliance, where that and that women participation strengthens ethical standard, transparency, and organizational resilience. SCGN Chief Executive Chioma Mordi said the society has trained over 20,000 directors, executives, and governance professionals in collaboration with regulators such as the Central Bank of Nigeria, Security and Exchange Commission, Nigerian Exchange, Nigerian Communication Commission, and the Financial Reporting Council with support from international partners. She noted that steady increase in the numbers of women in corporate boards in Nigeria, but stressed the need to recognize and amplify those actively shaping governance practices. Modi added that the roundtable aligned with the SCGN's commitment to protecting, promoting integrity, inclusion, and long term value creation, while also recognizing 30 women as custodians of corporate governance. For details of that story, see the nation's newspaper with this headline: How Women Can Drive Accountability and Growth, says Hespat. Away from that, and now to political issues where we have Ogun 2027, 10 in race for governor. Now the details. Ogun State has potentials. It is large, expanding from Ijebu waterside to Benin Republic border. It is an industrial hub for increasingly internally generated revenue. It is also empowered, endowed with vast human capital and untapped natural resources. Away from that and now to Daily Post where we have EFCC probes a suspected serial fraudster over alleged 19.9 million naira visa scam in Enugu. Now the details. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC Enugu Zonal Directorate has commenced an investigation on a suspected serial fraudster Ozogo Christina or Ogbonna over an alleged visa scam involving 19.9 million naira. In a statement released by the EFCC, the suspect is being investigated for allegedly collecting money from victims under the pretext of helping them process travel documents to go abroad. According to the Commission, three petitions, Ozomod Chikwebuka, Ugu Chinindu, and Amadiana Gilbert Chinedu accused Ogbonna of defrauding them through different schemes. Ugu, in his petition, said he met the suspect in 2018 while planning to travel overseas. He alleged that Ogbonna presented himself as a visa agent and convinced him with an offer of a Red Cross sponsored visa to United States of America for 1.8 million, excluding the flight ticket. The petitioner said he initially paid 4 million naira for the arrangement, after which he made additional payment, bringing a total amount he gave the suspect to 11.8 million naira. Chinindum, the second petitioner, alleged that the suspect worked with a friend to defraud him of 5.9 million naira after promising to provide genuine documents. Chidubem, the second petitioner, alleged that the suspect worked with a friend to defraud him of 5.9 million naira after promising to provide a genuine document that would help him advance his football career abroad. In separate petition, Chinedu claimed that Ogbonna collected 2.2 million naira from him, with the promise of securing a work permit and visa to enable him relocate to Austria. Initial findings by the EFCC show that the suspect, a 44-year-old electrical engineer, has been posing as a visa processing agent offering to assist people seeking to travel abroad. Investigation further revealed that he is not a licensed travel agent. For details of that story, see Daily Post newspaper with this headline: EFCC probes suspected serial fraudster over alleged 19.9 million naira visa scam in Enugu. Still on the pages of the Daily Post, where we have return IDPs to their ancestral homes. Benue Bishop tells authority. Now the details. The Bishop of the Makurdi Diocese, the Most Reverend Wilfred Anagbe, has warned authorities at all levels of government against adopting resettlement as a lasting solution for internally displaced persons, IDPs, in Benue State. Speaking at the 2026 Cathedraticum held at St. Teresa's Catholic Church in Makurdi, the clergy stressed that displaced persons in the state do not require relocations to new settlement, but should instead be assisted to return back to their ancestral land where they can resume their farming activities. According to him, the only durable and sustainable solution the IDPs need is to return them back to their ancestral homes, which is said the government at all levels has the capacity to do by providing enough security, especially at the border areas, to ensure safety of the returnees. He explained that nearly all the displaced persons are farmers whose livelihood depends on access to their farmland, arguing that relocating them elsewhere would not address the economic realities. He questioned the practicality of resettlement, noting that such an approach would leave their ancestral communities abandoned and vulnerable to occupation by attackers. The bishop also decried that he described the, as a the bishop also decried what he described as an attempt to distort the narrative surrounding the killings in Benue and other parts of the country for personal and political gains. He recalled facing criticism when he first raised concern about the attacks, but maintained his stance. Reflecting on his advocacy, he said, "When I started the cry for the killings of our people, I was called names. Some said I am a partisan, but because I knew what I was doing, I was not deterred. I thank God for today. Everybody has seen the truth." He added that his persistent calls were driven by the desire to see peace restored so residents could return back to their normal lives. For details of that story, see Daily Post newspaper with this headline: Return IDPs to their ancestral homes, Benue Bishop tells authorities. Yes, you can join us on our studio line for comments and contributions on 0816552 4699, 0816552 4699, or you can join us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and X at iPower1027. iPower1027. Yes, straight to Daily Post where we have a talk on fuel price hike. Experts, CSOs divided on subsidy as Nigerians face worsening hardship. Now the details. Experts and civil society organizations are divided over call for the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu to introduce palliative or reinstate fuel subsidy to cushion the impact of soaring fuel price triggered by rising global crude oil costs. The spike in oil price followed the 24-day conflict involving Iran, the United States, and Israel, which has disrupted global energy markets and pushed crude price or above $100 per barrel, far above Nigeria's 2026 benchmark of $64 per barrel. While the surge has boosted Nigerian oil revenue in recent weeks, it has also worsened domestic economic conditions. Petrol prices have jumped from about 492 naira or 56%, rising to between 1,367 naira and 1,390 naira per liter as of Monday, March 23, 2026, from 875 naira recorded before February 28. The increase has triggered high transportation fare and food prices, further eroding the purchasing power of millions of Nigerians, particularly those earning the 70,000 naira minimum wage. Amid growing hardship, some stakeholders have called on the government to introduce relief measures to ease the cost of living crisis. The Centre for Promotion of Private Enterprise (CPPE) has urged the federal government to adopt a coordinated policy framework to prevent energy-driven inflation. In a statement, CPPE's Chief Executive Officer Buda Yusuf warned that the Middle East crisis could reverse Nigeria's disinflation trend, which stood at 15.06% in February. Similarly, the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Joe Ajaero, said the government should not wait for industrial actions before intervening. However, the government is making huge revenue from the crisis, which has also doubled the budget benchmark. For details of that story, see the Daily Post newspaper with this headline: Expert CSOs divided on subsidy as Nigerians face worsening hardship. Yes, glad to have you back. The program is still in the papers, your daily nugget for news making major headlines in today's newspaper. And of course, you're listening to us from IPA 102.7 FM, live in the cities of Emurele, Owo, Ondo State. Yes, straight to the Guardian newspaper this morning, where we have this headline: Federal government sets agenda for pension reforms as SGF inaugurates Pencom board. Now the details. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, SGF, Senator George Akume, has inaugurated the board of the National Pension Commission, PENCON, tasking members to uphold transparency, accountability, and strong governance in managing Nigeria's pension system. Akume said the inauguration reflects the federal government's renewed commitment to strengthening pension administrations and protecting the retirement savings of workers. He noted that the board's responsibilities are clearly defined under the Pension Reform Act 2014, stressing that members are expected to provide strategic direction, policy guidance, and effective oversight. The SGF urged the board to operate with integrity and sound judgment, cautioning against interference in the day-to-day operations of the Commission, which could undermine established governance structure. He also reiterated the commitment of the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to clear outstanding pension liabilities, rebuild public confidence, and ensure retirees receive their entitlement promptly and with dignity. For details of that story, see the Guardian newspaper with this headline: FG sets agenda for pension reforms as SGF inaugurates Pencom board. Still on the Guardian newspaper this morning, where we have security operatives rescue two abducted cocoa farmers in Ibadan. Now the details. Two cocoa farmers abducted at the Cocoa Research Institute of Nigeria, CRIN Ibadan, have regained their freedom following a coordinated rescue operation by security agencies. The intervention has brought relief to families and stakeholders in the agricultural sector. The rescue of these two farmers marked the final phase of an operation that began shortly after the abduction, during which two of the four victims were earlier rescued and three suspected kidnappers apprehended within 24 hours of the incident. The Guardian gathered that the abductors had initially demanded a ransom of 100 million naira, raising fear over the safety of the victims and the growing threat to farmers and agricultural investments in the areas. However, a sustained and coordinated security response ultimately led to the safe rescue of the remaining captive. Chairman of Oluyole local government, Akim Olatunji, confirmed the development in a telephone interview, stating that the victims were freed through a joint effort of multiple security outfits. According to him, the operation involved the police, the Department of State Service, DSS, the Western Security Network, the codename Amatekun Corps, and the local vigilantes group, all working in synergy to track and pressure the abductors. Olatunji added that the rescued farmers had since been handed over to the police for further disbriefing and the necessary procedures. For details of that story, see the Guardian newspaper with this headline: Security operative rescues two abducted cocoa farmers in Ibadan. Yes, and of course, a quick look into the punch where we have a Soludo appoint 39-year-old Anambra's first female SSG. Now the details. Anambra State Governor Chukwuma Soludo has appointed has approved the appointment of Mrs. Chiamaka Nake as the new secretary to the state government. Nake becomes the first woman to occupy that position in the state. The appointment was announced in a statement issued on Monday by the governor's chief press secretary, Florence Ibhareman. According to a statement, Inake 39 hails from Nwafia in Onjikoka local government area of the state and is a financial and public sector professional with more than 13 years of experience in finance, strategic development, and economic planning. Before the appointment, she had served as a commissioner for budget and economic planning and also chaired Solutions Fund City Limited. During her tenure as a commissioner, she oversaw the mobilization, planning, and allocation of state resources to support socio-economic development. The statement added that Inake also held leadership positions across several state boards and initiatives, including the Anambra State Investment Promotion and Protection Agencies, the Internal Revenue Service Board, and the Small Business Agency. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper with this headline. Sodudo appoints 39-year-old Anambra's first female SSG. Yes, and that is where we draw the curtains for today's edition of In the Papers on your darling station Aqua 102.7 FM. Remember, staying informed is the first step to staying empowered. Keep reading, keep asking questions, and never lose interest in what is happening around you. I am Florence.